In conversation with me today is a man who is no stranger to unlocking value. He's one of the savviest investors of India Inc. He is the chairman of the Diversified conglomerate, the Piramal Group, Ajay Piramal. Mr. Piramal, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to ET Now. Let's kickstart today's interaction by speaking about your views on the entire reform agenda of the Modi government. They came to power with a lot of promise. They came to power with an intent to boost growth. Are you satisfied with the pace of reforms in the last 2 years?
I think I am satisfied with the pace of reforms. If you see, there's a lot that has been done in every sphere. The first and the most important, I think, is that the corruption at the top has been totally eliminated, which is a big thing today. I think decisions are being made today on the basis of what is sound economic policy. And I look at every other area. So look at what's happened in the power sector, for instance. There's so much more transparency. Or wherever natural resources are involved and government has to give in, now it's clear whether it's spectrum, whether it's mining, any natural resource has to be transparently auctioned up. Look at the progress that's taking place in the roads and in the highways. I mean, the construction has gone up. A lot of things that were being stuck for flimsy reasons have been removed. I look at the progress on railways. In the finance ministry, significant decisions have been made. Similarly, in the environment space. So overall, I think it is headed in the right direction.
What about crony capitalism, sir? That was something that was associated with the previous government. There was also the entire concept of so-called tax terrorism. Do you think the Modi regime has done enough to bury those ghosts at least?
They have buried those ghosts. Surely there's no now crony capitalism. There was also a talk at once Modi came in that certain groups will be favored to the advantage of the others. But if you see, and I remember reading a report that if you look at the shares of the so-called people who are close to Modi, I mean, their shares have performed worse than many other companies. So there is no crony capitalism today as I see it. And I see that also percolating in the states. Because of the example which has been set up in the center, the states as well have now become much more transparent and cleaner than before.
So fairly optimistic outlook, but are there any blips on the radar, any aspects where you think the government has perhaps missed out in the last 2 years? If you look at the GST, unfortunately due to lack of political consensus, the logjam still exists. Any other aspects which you would like to highlight where you would have expected the government to move a little faster maybe?
Probably the government could have speeded up public expenditure 6 to 12 months before that they did, because even now I find that the capital expenditure is not enough. And it needs, in an environment like this, it needs the government to start the spending. And that's when even private sector expenditure would start. So that, I guess, could have been a bit earlier. I'm of the view as well that interest rates should have been a bit softer than what they are.
All right. You're a man who has fingers in several pies, pharma, financial services, real estate. When I speak to a few of your peers from the pharma sector, they're of the opinion that if you look at some of the important events of the year, say for example the budget, that the pharma sector usually gets a cold shoulder. There's not enough to incentivize R&D in the pharma space. Do you concur?
Actually, the pharma sector, fortunately, does not require too much of involvement of the government. The less there's involvement of the government or less things to do to help it, that's better. There used to be the weighted deduction that you could get for R&D. That is now being slowly phased out. But that's the only thing. So frankly, I think that if they don't mess around too much with pricing, which sometimes I believe is getting a bit tougher on the prices of drugs, otherwise the pharma sector doesn't need much assistance.
So when you mean pricing, could you elaborate what aspect would you want there to be more clarity on, or perhaps there to be arm's length?
No, I think that now the government has brought down too many prices. So they have every year I find that the NLEM is being expanded. That's one thing. And there is, in areas where there's a lot of competition and there are many drugs, many brands available for the same molecule, I think they should allow competition to play out. Why is it that you need to regulate the prices of the higher priced drugs? It should be that if you want a certain quality, if you want a certain brand name, you can pay the higher price. If you feel that there's another drug which is equivalent, and you can go for a lower price. That's what I think. It's for the consumers to decide. That's what I feel.
All right. Since we're in the topic of pharmaceuticals, let's also speak about the kind of activity that's going on as far as the US FDA is concerned. There have been several companies that have come under the lens of the US FDA for irregular manufacturing activities, and certain cases there is also a question mark as far as data integrity is concerned. How do you look at it as a player in this space and as an important stakeholder? Do you perhaps think that the regulator is being overtly aggressive?
So we have plants which are inspected by the FDA in India, several plants. We have plants in Europe being inspected by the FDA, as well as in North America, and both US as well as Canada. Frankly, I find that everywhere the standard of the FDA has gone up, their requirements of quality have gone up. So to say that they are being unduly harsh over India would not be a fair comment to make. And even in this space, I think in the last 12 months, we've had about 10 FDA inspections. And I'm happy to say that in every inspection, we've passed with flying colors. So we've not had 483s, we've not had, forget about warnings and all, that's a far cry. So I guess they just want to be a much more thorough system. They want to ensure, the FDA, that quality is fully integrated into the business, in the systems, processes, and the people really follow it. And it is the same everywhere in the world.
All right. Now, since we are on the subject of pharma, let me also speak to you about the recent steps taken by the Modi government to liberalize or open up the pharma sector. If you look at what's been done, it's been decided to permit up to 74% FDI under automatic route in brownfield pharmaceuticals, and government approval beyond 74% will continue. How big a push do you think this is for the pharma sector, sir?
So if you think about it, till almost 2011, if I'm not mistaken, actually 100% FDI was allowed in the pharma in brownfield as well as in greenfield. And then post the Ranbaxy deal with Daiichi and our deal with Abbott and a few other deals, there was a noise in the system that a lot of assets which were strategic for India were being taken over by global companies, which would ultimately could result in prices of essential drugs going up. I think, and therefore this control was put, and that FDI was to be approved by government. I think it was not necessary to do it at that time as well, because there's a lot of competition in India. There are a lot of manufacturers of similar drugs. So will this 74% aid more investment in India? I don't think so, because frankly, it's somebody, a foreign company wants to come to India, whether it's automatic or whether it needs an FIPB approval, they would still come. It's only a question that it's become easier. So it really qualifies in the ease of doing business, because to my knowledge, even the FIPB would approve such investments. So it is that there is one less approval to do, and the overall ease of doing business is better.
So you don't think it's a game changer per se?
It's not going to game change. If somebody wants to come in India, a multinational, they would have come even when FIPB approval was required for 74% and below.
Your point being, India is a growth story which they cannot afford to ignore.
Absolutely.
Because there are some people in the industry who feel that with this opening up, perhaps the entire timeline around cross-border mergers and acquisitions could reduce.
That is true. Time will reduce, maybe 3 to 6 months. But will it accelerate investment? I don't think so.
You know, there's something interesting which the governor said recently, and this is after he decided not to continue. He said that there are several indebted industrialists who keep complaining about low interest rates. These are the high debt companies. But the governor says that rather than coaxing the RBI to lower the interest rates, perhaps these companies should focus more on loan recovery efforts. What do you say on that?
I agree with the governor on that they must focus on loan recovery. I think in that sense, he and the government have done a very good job of really highlighting the whole issue of the NPAs, the whole issue that there must be greater discipline in collecting loans. It's not that, frankly, before this, how were the companies used to, they used to have such large amounts of loan. Very often they would say that they are so too big to fail. And, so I think I'm glad he did it. The government has acted on this as well. The Bankruptcy Act has been passed. We've also, I find that banks are also now being encouraged to provide for this by the RBI, and the government is also backing them. The Bank Bureau that has been formed is another step in this direction. So I think loan recovery is important for the system. And if the economy, if the nation has to grow, I think we do need this discipline.
So you do concur that this entire cleanup of toxic assets in the banking system, though painful in the short term, is going to be extremely beneficial in the long term?
This is the only way we can grow, because if the banks continue to lend in the way that they've been doing in the past, where will they get the capital from to grow? In an economy, growth, the financial sector is the one which gives fuel to the economy to grow. And if everything, all the funds are locked up in non-performing assets, how will those areas which need investment, where will the funds come from? And you can't expect the government to keep actually recapitalizing banks, because even now 70% of the banking sector is the public sector.
All right, Mr. Piramal, on that note, we'll have to slip into a short break. Stay tuned to ET Now and keep watching our exclusive conversation with Mr. Ajay Piramal. We'll return after a short break. Welcome back to ET Now, where we are having an exclusive conversation with Mr. Ajay Piramal, Chairman of the Piramal Group. Mr. Piramal, now let's speak about your diversified conglomerate. As I was mentioning earlier, you have fingers in many pies. But since it's such a complex conglomerate, I'm pretty sure you would want to make it leaner and meaner. So what are your plans in that direction?
So as far as you're right that it is complex, the conglomerate, and so therefore we are trying to simplify it. We've said in the next 12 to 24 months, you'll find that we will split Piramal Enterprises into two different entities. One will be the financial services space, and the other will be where we will have mainly the pharma and information management. So we will do that, yeah.
What would be the benefits of such a split, sir? And how would it lead to better synergies?
So the benefits really will be that it, first of all, makes it simpler. It also makes it targeted, that those people who want to invest, let's say in pharma, healthcare, they can invest in that. There are some others who prefer investing in just financial services, so they have a choice to do that. So what we'll do is that we are still thinking about it, is that today's shares, if you hold one share of Piramal Enterprises, ultimately you will hold in the same proportion as you do today, two shares, one in the healthcare and pharmaceuticals and the other in the financial services space.
By when do you expect to complete this entire demerger process, or any timelines, tentative timelines that you can indicate to us?
So as I said, between 12 to 24 months we would do it.
All right. Now, you've been a very, very acquisitive company, and you have made inroads into several segments. In terms of your acquisition strategy, Mr. Piramal, could you outline what are the major sectors where you are looking at inorganic growth?
So as far as Piramal Enterprises is concerned, we will grow in the existing spaces that we have. We believe that growth should be both through organic means as well as through acquisitions. So let's look at the areas that one can grow in. In the pharmaceutical sector, we are in 3 different businesses. We are in the pharma solutions, which is really providing products and services to global companies. We are in the OTC space and in critical care. In the OTC space, it's a really India-focused business. The critical care and pharma solutions are actually global businesses. OTC, in the last 6 months, we've actually done 3 sets of brands that we've acquired. We acquired the brands of Merck Sharp and Dome in India. We acquired the OTC brands of Pfizer
yes.
as well as the OTC brands of a company called Little. So we are growing both organically there and inorganic. Similarly, last year in the pharma solutions, we did acquire a business which gave us injectable facility in the US. And we are looking at other acquisitions, as also in the critical care space. So that's that. There is another company which is called DRG, which is in the information management space. That is a US-based company which looks at data, information, data analytics. And again, there we grow both organically. So we believe we'll grow half the growth will come from organic means and half through inorganic in businesses in that space.
What about overseas acquisitions, sir?
So
or will you look at only domestic targets?
No. So when I said, if I look at, like I said, in pharma solutions, and we acquired a business in the US, critical care and pharma solutions, they would be overseas acquisitions.
Any geographies, particular geographies that you could indicate?
It doesn't. I mean, actually, we're looking at more the developed world. So it could be the US or North America, if I would say, Japan, Europe. These would be the areas that we would look at. In information and data, again, these are the same markets that we would look at, but these also would be global. In the financial services space, I don't think there will be many acquisitions. It could be small ones here and there for some fintech or something, but not otherwise, because to just acquire a large NBFC, it doesn't make that much sense.
Now let's look at 2 sectors which are currently buzzing. Let's start off with the cement sector. There's a lot of attention on the entire cement sector. There's been a lot of consolidation as well. There's been an improvement in the entire price dynamics as well. What is your view on the cement sector, and do you think that is a sector where you would want to enter in a big bang manner?
So cement sector, there is a transaction which is there going on, which is Lafarge is selling its business in India. We, not through Piramal Enterprises, but in our private capacity. So we are looking at it. We believe that the cement sector has gone through a difficult time. But if India's growth story has to really play out, then the cement is a critical area to be in. And also it's one of those areas where imports are very difficult to do. So, you know, today there are many commodities where you find that it's with imports, the price is under pressure. I don't think in the long run that happens with cement. And very often cement is not a commodity, it could be a branded play. So that's why we are looking at it, and let's see what happens.
And since you have interest in real estate and you also have a fund which looks specifically at infrastructure, perhaps it would make great rationale for you to have a captive cement capacity in India.
Actually, that frankly will not make a difference, because again, cement, as you know better than I would, that it is a very local place. It's very difficult to transport cement across the sites where you may be doing development. So though we are doing real estate in our own capacity, in addition we are funding many real estate developers. It's very it'll be very difficult and uneconomical to use a particular cement. So whoever is the closest to that, that's the person who you would buy from.
All right. What about the real estate sector, sir? You have a fund which looks at real estate investments. You also tied up with a few players. What are your plans, and what kind of focus is going to be over there? Is it going to be equity investment, mezzanine financing? Could you throw some light on that?
So in the real estate, in Piramal Enterprises, we play in both. We have a private equity fund called India REIT, and we also do loans which are across the duration of the project. So we could fund somebody who is interested in buying land till the end, till a finished product, construction finance, and in fact we have a fund which is also there for apartments. We believe that the real estate space in the long run is a good space to be in. Today, yes, it is going through a challenging time because the demand for real estate is not what it used to be. So the turnover, the sales turnover of real estate developments is low. Prices have not gone up as they used to in the past. But that also means that there is an opportunity for companies like ours to lend to really top-class developers who have the ability to pay, who have several projects going. So,
will you tie up with international players as well?
So we have funds which are international funds, yes. So we will have, in our private equity fund, we will tie up with a global provider of capital and we'll work together. Besides that, in real estate, we also have, in our private capacity, another business which does development of real estate called Piramal Realty.
What about distressed assets? That's also a segment that excites you. The Piramal Group is very clearly focused on several distressed assets in the infra sector. And of course, infra is going to be very critical as far as the overall growth story is concerned. What role do you plan to play over there?
So we believe that distressed assets is going to be play in the future. As we discussed before, the banks do have a large number of NPAs which they need to solve. The government has taken several steps to really deal with these NPAs, whether it's the Bankruptcy Act which has been passed, whether it's the changes that they have done to the DRT as well as to arbitration, and several other laws have been now formed. Also with the pressures that the Reserve Bank is putting on the banks for recognition of NPAs, I think this is a good opportunity to be in this space. The way we are doing it is that we are going to put up a distressed assets fund. We are in conversation with some large private equity partners, and they will, we and the private equity partner will be the GPs in the fund, and we will raise some funds from other investors, initially between $500 million to $1 billion fund. So we'll have a fund which goes into distressed assets. We will also form an ARC, and also we have an NBFC. So the idea is not just to take over loans, but actually to take over assets and work on them to see that we can turn them around. And that's what we've done. Actually, if you look at our business, it has been acquiring companies which have not performed well.
And turn them around to enhance shareholder value.
So this is what we will do in our distressed asset fund as well.
You know, on the flip side, will you look at selling or divesting any segments or any parts of your business, perhaps, which are no longer of much interest to you?
So actually, we have done a fair amount of this activity in the last few years. Ever since 2010, we have actually acquired businesses, but we've also let go of businesses.
Any segments which you would like to shed going ahead?
So now, today, I think we have a good portfolio. So as of now, I don't see that anyway.
My final question to you, Mr. Piramal, what will be the major growth driver for the group going ahead?
Fortunately for us, the sectors that we are in today, they are all well positioned to grow. So whether I see financial services, I mean, in 2012, we didn't have a book of NBFC. Today we have a book, we have assets under management which are about 26,000 crores. We have another 5,000 crores which is invested in Shriram, the group in financial services. So that's a large growth that's taken place. Similarly, we've grown in the pharmaceutical sector. As in real estate, we were not present in real estate in 2010, and now we have one of the largest books as far as
a formidable player.
Yes, as far as Mumbai is concerned, as well as our glass packaging business is doing. So I think we are in good areas, and I'm hopeful that they will show a good growth in the future.
Mr. Piramal, you're a man with a lot riding on your shoulders. All the best as far as your plans go in the years to come. Thank you so much once again for taking out time and speaking to ET Now.
Thank you, Ashwin.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.